Good evening, everyone. We are Crafty Girls and Jay. I'm Michelle, this is Jay, Kristen, and Lou, and we are here this evening to speak to you about professional behavior. So for a quick overview, we're going to be defining professional behavior. We're going to be discussing the 6 dimensions of professional behavior. And one thing that I want everyone to think about as we're going through the presentation is the statistic above that says 75% of what you're going to achieve in the future is dependent on your soft skills.
Okay. So first, like Michelle said, we are going to define professional behavior. There's a few characteristics of professional behavior. We've just got professionalism in general, behavior or qualities that characterize a professional person. Civility, that is just being courteous and respectful, talking to people who would like to be talked to. Polish really is just presenting yourself well. Manners, of course, is something we're familiar with that we were taught from a very young age, exactly what that means. Manners, being polite.
So I have a professional behavior, like business code, the dining etiquette, and in many respects of the professional behavior can make or break your interview. For example, people may think the dining etiquette are not very important, so they eat a lot, eat fast, speak a lot, no eye contact with others. So many may think you're not a good person to communicate with, so you may lose the job of job opportunities. So etiquette is about respecting other who are with you. So don't just care about yourself. The next one is the social intelligence. It's about one's ability to get along with people and to get them cooperate with you. The point is you should understand the person's life or the culture. For example, you meet a vegan people, you should not say, oh, the beef is very delicious. The soft skill can help you interact with people, such as good habits, good communication skill, or positive attitude. Of course, everybody wanna communicate with honest, friendly, or upright people. Nobody wanna someone always fight you. That makes your life crazy.
Okay, so now that we've defined professional behavior, now we're going to talk about the 6 dimensions of professional behavior. And the first one is courtesy and respect. So the first one on the list is being punctual. Might sound kind of obvious to everybody, but this is really important. It can depend from organization to organization. Some cultures in an organization might be a little more laid back. If you're a few minutes late for a meeting, no big deal. You can show up on time. But in general, it's good to be on time for things when you're in the work environment. You want to speak and write clearly. You want to apologize for your errors or misunderstandings. So if you make a mistake, you want to own up to it. People are going to respect that when you own up to what you've done, and also that will help you to learn as you move along in your career, because you're going to learn from those mistakes that you've made. Actually, my favorite one on this list is accepting constructive criticism. It's important to absorb constructive criticism that you might get from your boss or you might get from your peers, because that's really where you're going to help to improve and grow as you move through your career. We've also got provide fair and gentle feedback and practice active listening. An interesting statistic on active listening is that we only retain about 20% of what we actually hear. And then, question, is this person actively listening? Probably not, because he's got his face in his iPhone. So when somebody's talking to you, try not to have your iPhone in front of your face.
So number 2, we have appearance and appeal. And the first impression of an individual is created by their external appearance. Therefore, it's vital to make sure your appearance is proper, so that not only in the business environment, but in general everyday life, so that it will become a good habit and it will become part of you. The majority of communication is nonverbal. Therefore, words make up a very small percentage of the interaction itself. Nonverbal communication can be facial expressions, position, posture, and movement of your hands, arms, legs, and feet. Body language can be difficult to control, therefore it's important to understand how your body language conveys your intent and your words. When talking to an individual, make sure that your arms and your hands are in a welcoming position. So don't cross your arms, because that can show people that you're uncomfortable or want to leave the situation. And try to, when you're talking to an individual, try to leave your palms facing them slightly. Your legs and your feet also play a big role in nonverbal communication, and usually point in the direction where your interest lies. So an example would be if you're in a conversation and you want to leave the conversation, or you're in a rush to get somewhere, a lot of the times your legs or one of your feet will be pointing towards the door. So be mindful of that scenario. And lastly, one of the most important features of nonverbal body language is your eye contact. So a good tip, something that I read in a book, is called The Charisma Myth. I recommend that you all read it. It was called the eye flick. So you want to stare directly at someone's eye and then flick to the other eye back and forth very slowly. And this is a feature of very charismatic people. And all of these nonverbal body language traits might not be easy at first, but over time and practice, it'll become second nature and help create a great first impression that will help you succeed later on.
So next slide is tourist attack. The self-control is very important. It's one's ability, it's a personal ability to regulate one's emotion, action, and behavior. For example, it's very simple. It's a delicious cake on the table, and you want to keep fit. So you use your willpower to stop eating that because you know it's not good for you. It's very simple, but not everybody can do that. Usually, the self-control people can manage themselves well. The next one is stay away from the public disagreement and argument. Because first, usually it carries some negative emotion or some bad information. And second, because in the public, everybody can see your attitude. So your manager or employee may think, oh, it's not a good person to communicate with because they feel uncomfortable. For some topic, people need a long time to figure out the result, such as should animal be used in the research? Some people think yes, some people think no. But if people cannot figure out the result, the argument can always exist. The last is be compromise and don't prejudge someone, because you never know who's your friend or who's your manager in the future. So you don't want to lose any opportunity because you don't like that person. It's very interesting because you don't like that person, but after you work with them, you feel, oh, I really want to make a friend with that person. So the good idea is be a good listener and respect others. So the cartoon shows that someone always has argument or fight with someone. It's not very professional. So the good idea is be professional, friendly, handshake.
Alright, our next dimension is honesty and ethics. We'll actually hear a lot more about ethics later this evening, but we're going to touch on how does that roll into professionalism. Truthfulness. Quite simply, always tell the truth. It's just like you learned when you were a child. I like the quote that was here, honesty is the fastest way to prevent a mistake from turning into failure. If you think about it, how often have you been in a situation where someone just comes forward, tells the truth about it, you're a lot more forgiving, right? So just tell the truth. Avoid conflicts of interest. It's always professional and ethical to not have any conflicts of interest, whether it's something within your company or something external. Fair competition. What that means is you need to be respectful of your competitors. While it might be tempting to badmouth competitors, it's very unprofessional whether it is you're talking with someone that you work with and you're bad-mouthing a competitor, or if you're out in public and you're bad-mouthing a competitor, you never know who is around, and that can really harm your professional image. And then lastly, confidentiality. important for your ethics, especially in the industry that we are in, accounting. You have to remain confidentiality with your clients. So go ahead and turn it over to Michelle for our fifth dimension.
Thanks, Kristen. So the fifth one is reliability and responsibility. And if you look over on the left-hand side of the slide, being dependable, following through on commitments, and keeping promises and deadlines are all kind of wrapped in, fairly common themes. So basically here, you want to make sure that you're getting things done when you say you're going to be getting them done. One of the things that I encourage with my staff is, we're very deadline driven, but if you know that you're not going to be getting something done on time, make sure to give that notice 3, 4, 5 days in advance so that you can accommodate for those changes in the timelines. But in general, you want to be making sure that you're getting that, meeting those deadlines and following through when you say you're going to complete something. Performing work consistently and effectively. People are going to notice that in your organization when you get your work done on time and it's effective. They're going to see you as value added, so that's an important quality to have. And then make realistic promises. I kind of say here, under promise and over deliver. If you think you can get something done in 4 days, maybe give yourself a 5th day just in case things come up. Okay, and I'll turn over to Jim.
So last we have diligence, collegiality. So when you're working, you want to make sure that you're proud of your work, and because it will be reviewed, so you want to strive for excellence at all times. A good tip to live by is don't speak as much about what you're going to do. Try to deliver more. Make sure you go into meetings and learn the information, presentations, and learn the information beforehand. And don't be afraid to help out in the community, because not only will that make a good impression on you, it'll help others out.
All right, so
Okay, keep going.
This is the last slide.
in conclusion, looking back at our 6 dimensions, we had our tolerance and tact, diligence and collegiality, appearance and appeal, reliability and responsibility, honesty and ethics, and courtesy and respect.
Man, that's loud.
I know, I thought we should evacuate the building. That's awesome, yeah. That'll teach you to go over on time.
Right?
Okay, anyone have a question for the group? So, okay, thank you, Sam.
I have a question for Michelle. As someone that's more experienced, which of these do you think is the most valuable? If you had to pick.
I knew somebody, I was thinking about this earlier, and I figured somebody was going to ask this question, and they all kind of roll in together to make a really good employee. It's hard to pick one over the other. There's qualities, I feel like, in all 6 of them that will assist in making someone a quality and, a star employee. Like Kristen mentioned, confidentiality is huge. That's extremely important. Somebody who is reliable and responsible. You need to get your work done. You need to get your deadlines met. Those things are very important. But I think that there's qualities of all 6 that I see. Appearance and appeal. If I had to choose one, that might be. You need to present yourself properly. But I think there's, in this day and age, in cultures, different organizations, it's a little more, the appearances are a little more laid back than what they were, many years ago. So I think that's changed a little bit.
I guess the follow-up would be, is there one that people don't do very well? Some of your staff?
I had to teach a lot of critical thinking. And I'm not sure what that falls into. But that's one that I feel that I notice a lot, even not just in my staff, but in the organization, where people just do things because they're told to do it, instead of thinking about why am I doing this, and the repercussions of what I'm doing and how that's going to impact things down the road. So I think of that because I had something that just happened yesterday.
Oh no.
So critical thinking is extremely important, I would say.
Okay. On one of the slides it mentioned about proper business and dining etiquette. Did you guys come across any tips on dining etiquette?
Yeah, I actually, so there's a program called Professional Program in Accounting here.
Yes.
When you join, they make you go through like this dining etiquette
Uh-huh.
class. I mean, in theory it sounds pretty good, like there's different forks and different spoons, but when you actually go out into the real world, like no one cares about that. I remember like the first time I went on like a work dinner. It was a really nice fancy restaurant, and I got this pizza, and I started like cutting it up with like a fork and a knife. And my boss was like, "What are you doing? Like, you eat with your hands." I mean, it depends.
Well, the PPA program told me.
So yeah, I guess it depends on the setting and how everyone else acts around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of business has gotten way more relaxed.
Yeah.
Probably when I first got into business, it was a lot more formal if you went to a dinner or something like that. My tip on that, especially for people that are dining in the new culture, is watch what everyone else is doing and do what they're doing. If they're washing their hands in the bowl, wash your hands in the bowl, don't drink it. That type of thing. So I think that's the biggest tip on dining etiquette, but I know like the PPA is going to be doing that like in November again, so they do it every year, but I think it's nice to know the forks. Probably my biggest concern on that is when you're at like business meetings and there's a round table, like which side do you get the bread from? That's probably the biggest one that I think people mess up on, is they get the bread from the wrong side. But for the most part, it's not too bad. Okay, good job, you guys. Thank you. Stay up there because we're going to give you feedback. Okay. So I've got a few people that are giving you guys feedback. Joanna, why don't you hit us off?
Okay. Overall, I think the presentation is pretty good. You did a clean overview about what the topic are you gonna to talk, and it's very catch the audience attention very quickly. And another one, you provide a lot of example to explain the topic. I think it's very interesting.
Okay. Nice you.
I think your explanation and examples of each dimension of professional behavior is very good. And I like the way when one is presenting, your other teammate watching that and smiling, give support to them. And you got very big, beautiful slides with funny pictures. It's a good presentation. Thanks.
Okay. Curtis?
I think it was a really good presentation. I feel like your topic coincided with this group. I mean, just because I felt like the personality and just the confidence in you guys' tone and the way you guys were speaking. I think the funniest part of the presentation for me was your part of body language and just about how subtle things such as how you position your arms and your feet can make all the difference.
Okay. Sam Jong?
I think the presentation is really well organized and it's logically, and the PowerPoint is very clear. The comic and the cartoon is interesting. Also, the body languages part is the symptoms of body language is very useful for me.
Okay. Sam? Other Sam?
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty good. I love when people tie stats into presentations. So like the opening stat, it really makes you think about the topic and the importance, especially when it's something as big as 75%. That's pretty huge. I thought the slides were clean. There was good transitions. Especially one person was running the clicker, and it didn't seem like you guys had issues transitioning.
Yeah, who was running the clicker? Oh, very. You were very sneaky about that. I didn't even know that. Okay,
I could
good.
tell each of you prepared on your own topic because you didn't just read the bullet points, you expounded on each topic. The one thing that I would recommend three of you have papers, and I don't think you used them at all. You maybe glanced at them for a second, so I think if you just put like an extra 5 minutes in, I don't even think you need the paper.
Just for comfort.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like
It's like a, yeah,
Yeah,
security
it's like-
blanket.
Yes. So if you could step
hide
away from
behind
that, I
it if
think
you
it would
need to.
be even better, but overall I thought it was very good.
Okay, good job. Yeah, okay, so question for the class. Who do you think is the strongest presenter up there? What do y'all think?
Kristen.
You think Kristen is? Okay.
That's
Anyone?
interesting.
Okay. Why do you think Kristen is the strongest?
I mean, she has a paper, like Sam said, she barely used it, and the content and the how much she spoke about was really good. And
Yeah, I
it was-
think you have a really relaxed style. I feel like all of you are very complimentary. Obviously, Michelle having experience, that's helpful. I felt like Jay did the best job on eye contact, but of course that was his section, and he's also read a book on it. And Lou, I really liked your section, and I felt like your body language was very relaxed and good. So I just want to see you build on that. I feel like you didn't really look at your notes, but I do want you to be able to ad-lib a little bit more when you're going into it. But I really liked Jay's voice level. It was good to keep the attention, but you all have very complimentary presentation styles. I'd say probably Kristen, you're probably the more, like, I don't know, relaxed, or maybe a little of the comic side, or more like, I don't know what you want to call it. What were you gonna say? Relatable. Okay.
Maybe it's the like used to teach middle school thing.
I think that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. You've done this before. Okay, so as far as improving, I feel like you probably had too much information for the amount of time. That would be the only thing that I think you probably covered too much. I felt like I like to have numbers on the slide. I didn't see how many slides did y'all have?
There was.
Do y'all remember?
I think there's 12.
Is there only 12?
I think there might be 13, but the last two are just like cumulative references. So I think I only had like 11 or 10 with information I was talking
12, 13, 14. Yeah, it's like 13 or 14. So I guess what I'm saying is, just from the slide standpoint, if you allow like a minute per slide, I think you probably could have, I would ask for 14 minutes, because I feel like there was a lot there. And you guys gave good examples on some of these and walked through it in a little bit more detail maybe. So that would be the only thing, is maybe timing it a little bit more, and always when you actually do it, it tends to be a little bit either more or less. It depends. Some people speed up, some people slow down, so you want to have a little bit of a buffer there. But I thought I liked, the parts that I liked particularly were talking about the book, giving the quote. For the final presentations, instead of starting off, "Hi guys, this is who we are," I think starting with the hook is much more impactful. So instead of starting with a list of y'all's names, start with the hook. 75% of people, what was it? 75% of what you're going to achieve is based on your soft skills. I actually was mentored by a guy who thought it was more like 85%. But 75%, if you have that as a stat to back up, you have a place that backs that up. I would start with that, because I feel like that really draws your audience in, is that percentage. But good job. Okay. Okay, next team can come on up.